welcome to Kerry's Cards. Thanks for joining me today. We're going to make, on this tutorial, all the way through, a lovely gift box card organiser. Well, I've done card, but you could do recipes or something, whichever you prefer. Using some hard card and using the Flowers and Flourishes papers that we've got currently in the new Stampin' Up catalogue. We're also going to make these lovely little cards, which are 3 by 3 inches and coordinate beautifully with the box. And we have the dividers here as well. And we're going to use the keeping tabs and the keeping tab punch here to make each of the dividers. So let's pop those to one side for now, and we'll pop the box. This is quite a big project in that it uses up quite a lot of card, uses up one piece of designer series paper, but it does use, to make the little cards, use 2 pieces of white A4. And then the dividers as well, we also use 2 pieces of granny apple green here. And then to make the zigzag bits here, it's a 5 by 5 inch, and we're going to score it all across and cut it in half. But we'll come to that when you see. And we also need some designer series paper for the backs of each of the cards. So let's get crafting. Now the first thing we need to use, let's just pop our card out the way, is the box itself. This is quite a hard and sturdy box. It's not just using normal card because it just wouldn't be strong enough. So I've used the backing of the 12 by 12 papers here. And I've cut it so that the measurements here are 11¼ inch long by 5 inches across the short side. And the reason I've done that is to make sure that it's a nice, solid, sturdy piece. The other thing, if you haven't got any backings to your designer series paper or your pretty papers, maybe you've got it out of a block of pack of papers, what you could use is a cereal box. Something like that strength is perfect for this. One thing of note is that when you are cutting it, you can cut it with your trimmer. However, the blade is actually, it can get quite blunt by it. So here's my trimmer, but if I was cutting the cardboard, I've got a spare blade that I've marked up, and I know this is the one I use to cut the edges of the cardboard, because it doesn't really matter if these aren't perfect because we're going to hide them with paper, so that's okay there. So the first thing we're going to do is move this out of the way. First thing then, we've got our piece of card here, and I need to score it at 4.5. Now I'm actually going to score it really lightly with my blade, and the only reason I'm going to do that, I'm just dropping it on, and I'm going to go over. I'm not cutting it, but I'm actually sort of lifting it up as I'm going over. So it's so light, but it helps cut the card, so it makes a tidier and neater fold. We're going to turn it round. If you go too far, you will cut it. So you might want to do this trial and error, so you know roughly how much pressure to put on. So it almost looks like there's nothing, but that is now going to be the basis of our bag. Okay, so from there we need some patterned paper, so designer series paper. I'm going to use this one for the outside edge, and then I'm going to actually use the opposite side for the inside of my box. I don't know if you can see in there, I've done a contrast. If you wanted to, you could use the same colours all the way through. It's entirely up to you. My preference is for it to be done so that it's different colour, so it stands out a bit more. So for the outside, let's bring these measurements in for you there, so hopefully you can see them on camera. So for the measurements for this, it's a 6 by 12. So you can make 2 using the same paper, or you can just use the other side then to make the inside of the box. And this needs to be 4 7/8 by 10 7/8. Put that one up. said 10 7/8. Yeah. Put those two to one side. So that's our inside. So that's going to go on the inside. And this is on the outside, so that side to there. So let's get some glue ready now. I'll leave those measurements there for a little bit. Now, what we're going to do is we're always going to stick the outside on first. And that's going to fit in there, just like that. And the way I do this is we always, on our Tombow glue, I personally always use that pointy end there. Look how dirty that is. Put that in the bin. Always use the pointy end to start with. So for this one, I'm going to go around. But we need to make sure that this paper adheres really, really well, because you don't want it to lift up when you start moving it and bending it. So I'm actually going to use the other side here, which is this fatter end. I'm not going to squeeze any glue, but I'm going to use this end to smooth out the glue that I've just put on. That way we should have a nice solid good bit of stick ready for our designer series paper to hold it in place. So that's that one done. I'm going to turn it over, make sure I'm putting the pattern side down, and then pop this as centered as possible. There we go. Turn it over, and I'm just going to push that down a little bit to make sure it has a nice big stick. Then what we need to do is bend the edges in. Now you could use a bone folder if you wanted. I tend to bend it over and then use my finger and thumb just to make a nice neat edge. I'll do the same again on the other side, because we will eventually put some glue down on here to hold it in place. I use my fingernail. If you've got a bone folder, you could use the bone folder, that would also work. Okay. And same with the top bit, but you see now how that bit's really quite messy, so I don't mind, because we're going to actually cover it up. And then let's do this side. Okay, now the other thing I find quite handy here is some wooden pegs. So if you've got some wooden pegs, that's great, and you'll find this slightly easier. The other option you've got is to use double-sided tape, and that will be a quick, instant fix for adhering. So I'm going to pop that one over, sort of hold it in place and squish it a bit. It doesn't matter if you get some glue over squeezing out, because this bit will fit over the top and hide it. Okay, so that's that one. I'll pop that on there for a bit. And we'll do the other side. And glue that down. It doesn't matter if it comes a little bit sticky. Just pin that for a bit. But it doesn't, I don't know that I need it actually, if I'm honest. I think it looks okay. Right, now when it comes to these two longer bits, you need to make sure that this edge here is nice and tidy, because that's a bit too full. So I'm going to take my little pinking scissors. I'm just going to cut it like that. So when we bend it over, it's a nice, see that nice little edge we've got there. We'll do the same at this end. So I'm going to cut it down like that. Put my glue down. Hold it in place. pegs in the way. One, I think that needs a little bit more glue there. There's a peg on that to hold that one in, and let's do the same on this side. So, and that and that. Put the glue down. Let's cut that out. Nope, it doesn't want to go down properly either. There we go. Hold that in place. Now we're ready for the rest, or the inside layer, to go on. Let's take these pegs off. I don't need them on for very long. Now let's do the same again like we did before. Let's put our glue. I think I'm coming to the end of this one. I like to make sure that it really is stuck down, especially where the creases are, because that's where it's going to move the most. So you need to make sure it's nice and stuck down on the creasy bits. It's a technical term, that, creasy bits. There we go. And that up to there. Then we'll put this on as symmetrically as possible, and again, because it's wet glue, we've got a little bit of wiggle room. Try and make sure that it's all symmetrical. And that is the base part of our box ready, but we're not going to do anything with it now because I need you to put it to one side and let it dry. You need to make sure that it folds much better when the paper and the glue has dried. Otherwise, what happens now, you try and bend it slightly. I'm not even going to show you. You bend it because I can feel where the bends are, but it tends to pull the papers because it's wet. So put it to one side, and whilst that's drying, we'll work on the insides of the box. So I said we needed to make our little dividers here. So these are 4.5 inch, no, 4.25, let's just double check. 4.5 inch squares, and you need 4 of them. So I'm going to use my trimmer. I'm going to cut 2 pieces of card at a time. I'm going to do 4.5 inches. Move that to one side by 4.5 inches. And 4.5 inches. Did I do 4.5 inches? I did, good. Right, these 2 pieces here, so that's our dividers done. But I'm going to use these last 2 pieces, or the leftover bits here, to make the 4 tags at the top. Okay, so let's pop that away to one side again. Let's get our tab, punch, and our stamp pad. And move that up there. Now I'm going to do this in Pretty Peacock colour because that's one of the colours in the paper. That way. And is that big enough? I'm going to go for next size up, I think. Right, there it is. So this is D block I'm going to use. I fancy doing dots. So I want to punch. I'm going to put that in that way. So I want to stamp that way twice. I'm going to do 2 of this pattern. Clean it all up. And 2 of the floral pattern. Do it the same way. 1, 2. Now, this one here, I can actually stamp the word in the space because I can see where it needs to go. But this one, it's a bit tricky to see where the shape is. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to punch them all out before I do any more stamping. Just put my pegs away. I'm going to punch them out. So I do it upside down, line them up, punch, that's one. Do the same again for this one. No, let's do it that way because that bit's too big. Two. Notice I'm doing this upside down so I can see exactly where my card is and the image is to make sure I'm punching it at the right place. Okay, so there's my 4 tabs. That can go away. Then we need our little stamped images. I'm going to do, again, using the Pretty Peacock. We're going to have a happy birthday. We're going to have a for you section. But obviously you can make up whatever sections you want. If there's not one that you want in this stamp set, you can write it on. Yeah, if you don't have the stamp set itself, so you don't have these images, you can just use the punch and write your own things on there. Let's do hello friend. And what was the last one? Thank you, I think. There we go. That's all of those for now, but we'll come back and use those later for the cards. So we've got matching tops. Then we need to just fold them in half. I've got the punch here, but you can actually get these dies in the, these in a die set. And they come with, let me just get the castle on. So whether I can find them or not now. So it's down to your individual preference as to how you like to craft. I like punches because I like the speed of them. But having said that, there we go. So here's the stamp set. So you can have a die or the punch. Now the die has, I'm not sure if you can see, it actually has it a little score line done for you. So when you actually cut it out by the die, it'll fold easier. But I don't find it too difficult to fold these because they're quite simple. So then I'm going to use a little bit of glue just along the top, the bottom of each one like that. And then when it comes to popping them on the card, I line up the stamped image across the bottom with the top of the card there. So that's one. Do the same again. So because it's wet glue, it means I've got time to move it. So that's the fourth one. So there, our dividers done. We'll pop those on one side as well, so that dries off. Now we'll use this is 5 by 5 inches. Now from this, we're going to make 2 of these zigzags. So by cutting it in half, but rather than doing 2 lots of scoring, I keep it at 5 by 5. Do my scoring on the scoreboard or using your trimmer if you don't have one of these. and I want you to score at every 1/2 inch, and this is going to make our concertina or fan shape in a minute. So that has now been scored like 1/2 inch each way. Then I can get my trimmer. I'll make sure when I cut at 2.5 inches, I'm cutting across each of the score lines. So I've made 2 pieces now the same, and I'm going to just then concertina them. One. Two. So there's our 2 concertinas. There we are. Now comes the trickiest bit, I think, of the whole box, is to get these holes through, so you can put your string through and holes into the cardboard. Now I've got a very old, but it still works. I can get it off my thing. Hole punch here. Now that's too thick to do all of those, but what you can do is 2 at a time. Line it up and punch. Then when you come to the next one, you can just fold it over and use the hole from the previous one as a guide and punch again. And then do exactly the same for the last ones. Use the hole as a guide. That way, I don't think we'll go through that many. Let's try there to there. And then the last one, there to there. So that's put my holes in. So we'll do the same on this one. I normally try and do 3, I think. 3 is good. There we go, let's try that one. 3. Let's see if we can do 4. Yeah, I can do 4, but it's a bit harder. So that's the holes put in there. So far now we have everything. We've got the base there, we've got this bit, we've also got our dividers made. But what I'm going to try and do next is put the holes in here into the cardboard. And to do this, it's easier to do it before you build everything together. So we take our crease bit. I'm just going to do it very gently so I can see where the base of the card, the base of the box is going to be. But you can see how the paper's buckling slightly because it's still damp. So I don't want to overdo it because it's still wet. The bottom bit I'm not so worried about because you won't see that, because when it's at the bottom, it will be hidden by all the nice cards that you're going to pop in there. So to mark up where this hole is going to be, I get a pen. Put where my piece of card is and then just do a little dot. Then I'll do exactly the same on the other side. And then we'll turn it round and we'll do the same again. Line up the base of the zigzag bit. There. We'll do the same on this side, line it up. And that's those holes there. And then the other thing we need to do is to pop the holes in at the top for the ribbon. And I do that by taking my ruler and as a guide, I use this line here to see how far down to go. So I use that line there at the bottom of or as the base, and then I'm going to punch at 1 inch from either end, so 1 and 4. And I'll turn it round. Do exactly the same again. So measured, lined up the green stripe there on my ruler and mark at 1 and 4. If you want an exact measurement, it's just under 1/2 inch in terms of location. Then I'm going to take my hole punch again and go through there. This again, because it's card, depending on the thickness of your card, should go through each time. And it's much easier to do this now than when you pop it all together. If you don't have one of these punches, it might be that you've got one of those things with a hammer and you can pop that over and use one of those metal hammers with a punch the holes in, but make sure you've got one of these to pop into, because otherwise you might go through your table as you go through. So there are all my holes ready. And I think I'm going to wait just a little bit longer for this to dry. Or are we? Should we just go for it? Let's just go for it. And bend it up. And bend it up. Now, I'm not actually going to fold it over as such. Look at that. See how it's gone all crumpled? So don't worry if it does do that. You can use your finger. And as long as it's at the bottom and the top bit looks okay, we'll be all good. If it's a bit stiff, try and bend it with your fingers and try and rub it a little bit just to bend it a little bit more. Okay, so there's our shape. Now, what we're going to do here is we make sure that this bit, we're going to glue it. Glue that one on there so it matches up with the hole, just on one strip. You see how we've done there? And then what will happen is that concertina then will come across and fit on this side. But for now, we're just going to leave that one glue. We'll do the same on this side. Ooh, match up the hole. I'm going to get my pegs just to hold it in place for a bit. And we'll leave that for a couple of minutes. I'll leave that to set. Okay, they've had a little bit of time to set. Now we need to get this bit here to stick over here. So this is when it starts to get a bit awkward, but not too much. And this is where the pegs will come in handy, okay? You glue on that one. Try and marry it up with the hole. So I'm going to peg this now I know that it's in the right place. Whilst it dries, that's that one. And then put glue on this side here so it sticks there and line up with the hole that we did. Bring that over if it's struggling because it's too tight. Hold that in place just for a little bit. If needs be, you could hold the peg on that until you've got the string ready in these holes. So that's another little trick there to hold it in place while everything sets and dries. Now it's quite lifted, mine has there. But again, I'm not overly worried because once we've put the string through the holes, it then means you can see there that it pulls it in and you can't see the other stuff on the side. Okay. So let's leave that. We'll pop that over there to dry for a bit. So whilst that's doing that, let's get the base cards ready and made. Now you might already have some little 3x3 cards. I actually don't. So I'm going to make my own with 2 pieces of A4 paper. I'm going to cut 2 pieces, two strips of 3 inches. Then turn it round, and then I want 6 inches. And then I'm going to put this here and score quite hard, and then I've got my 2 base layers there, 2 little cards, bases. And we'll do the same with this one. 6 inches. And then score again at 3 inches. So there are my 4 little base cards. You could do slightly bigger ones if you wanted. Right, I can't find my bone folder. There it is. You could do slightly bigger ones if you wanted. Maybe, I mean, it should fit 3.5. You could even fit probably 4-inch cards in there, because don't forget these are 4.5 by 4.5. So 4-inch cards would sit quite nicely in there as well. So there's our base cards ready. Then we'll get our DSP for our backings, and these need to be just for the size of that. So I'm going to do 2 7/8 because I want them to be quite close to the edge of the white card. So you have a very thin white edge. So when you pop them on there, we've got a little bit of a white edge round. Can you see? So it's 2 of those. And then I'm going to do, again, I'm going to use the other side of this, 2 7/8. This one, 2 7/8. I'm going to use those, the other side, the back of that there. For those, that's some spare card then. So let's pop that glue down. Oh, that's come off. One. Two. Opposite side. Again, make sure when you are putting these on, you've got it up the right way if it's a pattern that needs that. But sometimes it doesn't, like this flower, this orange flowers doesn't need it. So there's our bases done for our little cards. Now while they're drying off, just leave them up there. Let's bring this one back. Now we need some string now. Now I'm going to use some white thread. In terms of the length that we need, I think I did about 10 inches last time. So I'm going to measure 2 lots of 10 inches. Scissors. Okay. Like that. And this I find is the fiddliest bit now, is to actually get them through the holes that we have before us. So basically, or essentially, I gather it up as tight as possible, and then you could thread that through a needle if you have one that's got a big enough hot eye. I don't, so I go full on, poke it through and it comes through. And I do the same again, gather it all up on this side. Wet it a bit because it's easier to go through when it's wet. Poke it through the hole, and then so that's your piece of, that's your concertina made. And then again, if you wanted to, you can use your peg there to hold it in place, but don't tie this too tight because it needs to sort of come up square, so you want it to go like that. So I would tie it in a little bow to start with, because you can undo it. And then if I let go of that, then that's perfect. See how it just holds it nice and tight and upright, and then it makes the slots there for your dividers to go into. So we'll do the same now with this side. Squeeze it up. Let's make that end a bit wet. Feed it through. Do it on the opposite side. Feed it through. Come on. Sorry. Make it wet again. This one might only go through 2 at a time, I think, looking at this. Yeah. Last one. It doesn't want to go through. We'll do this one at a time then. I don't want to cut the end because I've made it to fit exactly as if I... There's that one. And then last one. Okay. So now we can grab that together again like that. Pull it, but not too tight. Little bow, and I think when I let that go, there we are. That one's a little bit too tight, I think, because it's gone in too much. So just undo that. That's why we do the bow. Now I've done 2 inches of ribbon here of the cotton because I know that that's just the right amount, but if you wanted to do it slightly longer, then cut off the long bits to make it a bit easier for you, then you could do that. So the last thing we need to do now is get our ribbon on. So we have, let's use this one here. This is, I think, 24, 26. So you want 13 inches, 2 13-inch pieces of ribbon. So I'm just going to cut this in half because I know this is already 26. Then you need to thread them through. Let's make that a bit tidier. Again, if you've got a ribbon, a needle to get this through, then that might be easier. Or the other option, let's get a pokey tool, also known as take your pick, but I call it the pokey tool. Doesn't want to go through today. One. Now I always thread them through on both sides before I stick anything down, just so that I can make sure that they're the same length, because I've done a few projects where I've held and put it all and stuck it down, and then I've gone to carry my bag and then realised that it's actually slightly lopsided because one handle's longer than the other. Not a major issue, but and it also means I can tidy up the edges a little bit. If you wanted to be really good, you could burn the edges off with your little a lighter, but I'm not going to do that. Well, then what you need to do is I'm going to use some double-sided sticky tape. Just pop some little bits inside there. Stick one down. Let's put that one down in there. That one. Let's do the same on this side. On there like that. Pull it through. And the last one. There we go. So then we have our little gift bag box. Let's put that out the way. And then we'll pop our dividers in. And we should go one between each of the 4 zigzags. Except I'll put 2 in there. But the string also helps stop the tabs from moving. And then once you've got your cards ready and decorated, so inside the flourishes, flowers and flourishes, frames and flowers, sorry, there's some die cuts, beautiful die cuts these are, and I've, you know, all sorts of things can be done with them. So for example, if I get the ones I've done already, one more. So this one just uses this base one and picks out the little flowers there. And then I've matched up the stamp set with the tab. And then the idea is that I would put that one as a thank you. So I'll pop that one in my thank you section. That's the thank you one ready. This one I did exactly the same as that one, but then used another flower set. It's there, that one. And then I did exactly the same and did the Hello Friend. So I'm going to put that one in the Hello Friend section. And then these 2 I did slightly differently again. So I had a smaller piece of paper that was left. So I just did a strip, but then used some of the leaves that are on there. The other thing that was really good is that one can fit on. So that's really cute. So it's up to you how you want to decorate them. And again, here I've just used the stamps again to match. So this one can go in the happy birthday section, and then this one can go in the for you. So you've got lots of different options there, loads and loads of options in terms of all these die cuts. So let's tidy them away so you can see the final projects that we've made. So there's one. Some of the little cards. That's another colour, that colourway that I did. So there we are. There is an updated version of the gift box card holder using the frames and flourishes papers from the latest Stampin' Up. All the information will be in the bottom underneath, so the written bit, the description bit, you'll find it. Any questions or any comments, then please come back to me. Many thanks for watching. Happy crafting. Bye bye.